Hi, my name is Blake Willoughby, and I'll be covering Neza-Chalco-Itza in Mexico. Bordering the northeast region of Mexico City is the municipality Neza-Agua-Coyotl. Within the city of Neza is the world's largest megaslum. It also connects two other municipalities, Valle de Chalco and Itza-Paluca. Today, the population of Neza is approximately 1 million. Neza is located on top of the remains of Texcoco Lake. Around the 1850s, the federal government in Mexico took actions to dry up the lake to prevent flooding. After World War II in the 40s, there was a rapid wave of industrialization north of Mexico City. This industrial revolution brought in a giant invasion of immigrants who needed a place to live. However, during this time, the amount of low-income housing in Mexico City could not sustain the growing population. The inner-city slums, also known as vecindades, were already overpopulated and congested. The only solution for the immigrants were colonias populares, or also known as irregular housing. In the 50s, speculators looked at this area as a possibility for profit. They gained possession of approximately 30 square miles of the Texcoco lake bed. Over the course of 10 to 20 years, they sold over 200,000 lots on credit for only a few dollars monthly. Families immediately saw this as an opportunity for better living. They bought land and then began to build shacks. This area became what is known as a bedroom community. That means it's a very cheap place of living for people who also work in the nearby city, and in this case, it's Mexico City. And one thing I found interesting when reading articles were that people in these areas, when they built their homes, they also built shops on the ground floor. It was kind of like their own little economy. These shacks lacked official land titles and basic living services, such as sewage systems, flood drainage, accessible water, and access to education. Under Mexico law, without proper living services, Neza was considered an illegal settlement. Since the city was also not an official municipality yet, they didn't have public spaces such as town halls, libraries, or even like cemeteries. In 1959, the Federation of the Neighborhoods, or the Colonias of Mexico City, denounced the state government for not providing clean drinking water or any other basic services to the residents. Neza demanded formal representation and requested to become its own municipality. Finally, on April 3, 1963, Neza officially became a municipality by state legislature, with George Sayenza Gomez Noff as the first municipal president. The conversion to a municipality greatly controlled urban growth, and it helped some of the areas attain pavement, proper sewage systems, streetlights, and access to water. The residents in these areas, most of the employed, were taxi drivers, service workers, and others had low-paying jobs, blue-collar jobs within the capital. Vulnerability. Neza has a wide range of physical, environmental, social, and economic vulnerabilities. Neza and also Mexico City have encountered numerous natural disasters over the years, including fires, earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, landslides, and also droughts. One of the most severe disasters that occurs in these areas are earthquakes. Just last year, Neza experienced two of the worst earthquakes in 1 month. On September 8th, it was registered as the strongest earthquake to hit the city in the last 100 years. Then again, on September 20th, this earthquake was registered as the most lethal earthquake since '85, causing over 270 deaths and destroying over 3,000 buildings. After the second earthquake hit, the federal government declared 16 municipalities in central Mexico to be a disaster zone. This allowed local authorities to access human, financial, and logistical resources to take on emergency measures. This could not have been done without the help from Federal Natural Disaster Fund Trust called FONDEN. The decision to implement FONDEN was based on a number of casualties and the amount of damage within the city. It did not take into account, however, the immediate and long-term needs of the communities throughout the city. As a result, municipalities on the outskirts of the city lost out on federal assistance. The underground water network also was damaged. This prevented locals from getting safe, portable water delivered to their homes. It was only when the state of Mexico government publicly called on the federal government to act that other affected areas outside the border received funds and resources to take on the aftermath. Not only does Neza experience natural disasters, they're also vulnerable to overcrowding, poor sanitation, waterborne illnesses, malnutrition, high unemployment rates, high death rates, low literacy rates, and also lack of law enforcement. Government intervention. After becoming its own municipality near the end of the 60s, Neza's population was drastically approaching 600,000. Still, over half of the population were without proper living services. Conflicts also began regarding the tenure. This included repeated sales over the same land plans. In 1973, the federal government intervened with a solution for the demand of land and increasing population. The federal government created the Fideicomiso de Ciudad Neza-Chalco-Itza, FNEZA. This trust regularized 43 of the 83 colonies in the municipality. Negotiations continued until 1977, when the price of the land was brought down to its original value. After that, colonies lifted their payment strike and collaborated with the program. A year later, over 60,000 properties had been regularized. In 1981, FNEZA as a federal trust was abolished, and the functions were later handed over to the state government organization Comisión para la Regulación del Uso del Suelo del Estado de Mexico, CRESUM. Under CRESUM, regularization accelerated, and by 1991, titles to a total of 159,000 lots had been issued. By the late 1990s, only an estimated 12% of the plots in Neza-Chalco-Itza had irregular land titles. What are the results of the intervention? Government intervention and settlement upgrades were ultimately successful, but the process took some time. Street lighting, paved roads, water, and drainage were only introduced after the regularization process was underway. It started in the main streets. By 1980, most of the streets were paved and supplied with main water lines and drains. During this time, the population duplicated to over 1.3 million. Today, most residents in Neza live way below the national poverty line of $117 per month. Another problem in Neza is the rising Cholo gang culture. This gang culture was inspired by the major cities in the U.S. It has an influencing factor towards the city's raising crime rate. Even though the community is struggling economically and faces many social vulnerabilities, Neza is a growing culture with a bright future ahead. Recently, there has been a push towards community development and services. In 1998, Roberto Sanchez Chavez established the Junior Symphony Orchestra of Neza. The goal behind this organization was to steer children away from the rising gang culture. Chavez hopes that by teaching children to perform classical music, they will develop valuable characteristics such as discipline and the ability to work with others. Up until 10 years ago, the Jardín Bicentenario town within Neza was a landfill within 12 million tons of garbage. The World Bank classified Jardin as one of the dirtiest places in the world. In 2006, government efforts helped close the landfill and reclaim the land. The plan was to form this area into a new community hub. Today, Jardin Town has a hospital, rehab facilities, a mall, and also off-site university campuses. The project greatly helped the community for the entire region, creating thousands of jobs and opportunities for the residents. Another community service that is guiding Neza towards a brighter future is a Zayotuzin Center. Originally formed by local mothers, Zayotuzin is one of many daycare centers in the community. Parents who are factory workers, seamstresses, or even construction workers now have a safe place to leave their children when going to work. This center has even received some assistance and funds from the global charity Save the Children. Over the past decades, trees, banks, shops, libraries, schools, and even McDonald's have sprouted up in Neza. What once was considered an enormous refugee camp is now the place of employment for over 200,000 people. Over 4% of Mexico City's economically active population is in Neza. Critique. While Neza's community can be seen as an improvement in terms of housing settlements, there is still a great need for improvement in areas of education and law enforcement. There are 35 countries in the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. On the education scale, Mexico is ranked last. Children are leaving school with the lowest levels of literacy. Approximately half fail to meet the basic benchmarks. To solve this issue, I believe with the help from grants and international assistance, more schools need to be built. Not only will the increase in schools increase the literacy and education percentages, it will also open doors for more jobs, and this can ultimately lower the crime rate. Another area that needed improvement was law enforcement. Neza's security network needs to be significantly improved. Each year, approximately 8.4 murders for every 100,000 people occurs in Mexico City. The lack of police in Neza, then Mexico City has been deployed to play the role of the police for the past 12 years. I believe there needed to be an upgraded security network within the city. For example, such as increased officers on every corner, implementing security cameras, anonymous crime hotlines to report illegal activity, and also a network of neighborhood watch groups. While these upgrades can be costly and they can take time, I believe they can definitely decrease the rising crime rate in Neza. And here are my resources. Thank you.